Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so we'll continue to discuss things that from where we have left, and we are still in the unit 1. Okay, and we are just trying to set ourselves in a position to understand why this subject is relevant and why this has to be studied. Okay, and we have seen all this, what is the definition of disaster, why it, how it can be defined, and how do we classify them based on the way it occurs. Okay, and we have seen how do we classify all that, and then we have also seen in specific, we have not gone and discussed how the physical characteristics and this location plays an important role in making India vulnerable to natural disasters. We have not discussed in that angle. That's what we will try to do today. And if you see, yeah, so we have seen till here, and where we saw we have certain vision with which the Indian government and the state government responds to this kind of issues. Okay, and we have seen how this is important, right? Like when a disaster occurs, what is our response? Okay, and how do we what measures we take post disaster, and how much time it takes for us to recover, and what kind of mitigations that we do, structural, non-structural mitigations, and so on and so forth, and policy measures if required. All that is kind of a loop. Okay, and which in turn makes the cities and the community to prepare itself for the next disaster. Okay, like we said, it's not possible that we have a control on this, right? We have a control on natural events. Okay, at the most what we can do is we can reduce this. We can, like we said in the definition of disaster, we should try our best. We should try our best in the sense we should make our cities and buildings and the community in such a way that we can cope up these kind of events. That's what we are trying to make. Okay, and if you see the definition of disaster, we saw that these are issues that community cannot face on its own, and it is that's when the word disaster is coined. Okay, and we have also seen the fundamental line from which the disaster preparedness or disaster management plan is prepared. Okay, through Disaster Management Act. Okay, this is the basis on which the entire idea, policy measures, actions have been taken. Okay, and we have also seen the recent one. Okay, I still have not changed it. National Disaster Management Plan. Okay, 2019. There are 14 points which it recommends the state government and the authorities to implement, so that we can we are better prepared in terms of disaster. Okay, and also there are certain measures. Okay, short-term goals prescribed or suggested in the disaster management plan, and the country is working towards it. Okay, so today what we will see is we will just understand how is it relevant, what is the number that we are talking when we say disaster, and from physical point of view, from locational point of view, how things are impacting. Okay, so there is a paper here. Maybe I will share the reading material later. I have just put some extract, maybe 1 or 2 slides I have put, but this is more than 50 page paper, where there is a lot of discussions and descriptions on how the events have occurred, and how it can be understood, all that. Okay, in brief, if you see, like I said, the landmass also have a major role to play. Okay, for example, if based on the paper, what is the correlation that we get? Large population means large vulnerability, right? Largely they are exposed to disaster, or they are most vulnerable. But if you see from the world perspective, and despite being Africa the one of the largest continent, having largest mass, if you see the disaster as such, natural disaster as such, it is very less prevalent compared to its size and the population it has. Okay, that's the reason associated with that is because of the way the land mass is. Okay, the way the tectonic stability of that particular land mass is. Okay, but they have different issues, which, for example, drought is supposed to be one of the major issues, that natural hazard that the African continent face. And if this is actually a data taken from 1975 to 2001, and the paper has been developed based on the events. Okay, and one of the major conclusion that is drawn is the frequency of events over the rest of the world reflects the dominance of climate as a control on occurrence of natural disaster. Okay, so that's why there is a lot of discussions about climate change, the measures for reducing the impact of climate change. What are the adaptation measures the country is taking, or the even at the global forum. Okay, there are policy measures being taken so that the impact of climate change is reduced. Okay, so and this has been recorded, or this has been emphasized by studying these disasters as well. So how do we put that into perspective? If you see the number of disasters, you can see tornadoes. Actually, these are actually nothing but cyclones. Okay, we will see why these are called tornadoes and why these are called cyclones. Tornadoes are nothing but cyclones only, but different terminologies are used based on the based on the place where it occurs. Okay, so synonymously we can say tornadoes, the number of event that has occurred during this 25 years has been tornadoes, floods, tropical cyclone that hits Indian subcontinent, and tsunamis, and so on and so forth. Okay, so and also if you see from the entire century, this particular 21st century, the number of event that has occurred, okay, in the beginning of 1900, okay, so the number of event that has been recorded as a natural disaster is way too less than the number of natural hazards or natural disaster that is recorded currently. Okay, exponential. You can see the we don't need more explanation. You can see the number of occurrences that you can see from the chart itself. Okay, there is we can pause here and discuss some other thing also. It's not necessary that every time this is the case. Okay, so because of the advancement in technology and the kind of advancement that we have made overall, okay, maybe the recording and the we have proper records for all this, and then the reporting is n number. Okay, however, maybe let's say if that that is taken into consideration, probably let's say it's somewhere here. Okay, even let's say some of the events have not been recorded properly because we don't have media, we do not have the kind of communication that we have now. Okay, so even if you take all that into consideration, the number of event that has that is being recorded now and that has been there in the beginning of the century is way too distinct. Okay, that's one thing that we should keep that in mind. Also, sorry. Also, like we have been discussing this, we are not actually concerned with the number of events or kind of disaster that hits. Okay, we are actually concerned with whether it is affecting the life or not. Okay, how severe it is and how we should be careful about it. Okay, so if we see that number, on an average we have this is total death. Okay, in terms of absolute numbers, you can see it's 275,000 people die. It's been recorded. But if you put that from the if you remove one part, okay, famine because of the scarcity of access to quality and quantity of food, 50% of the death occurs because of the natural disasters. Okay, there are two things that we can pause here and slightly deviate from the actual discussions that we are trying to make. Even in the current century, even in the 21st century that we are in, this is very unfortunate that 50% of the death occurs because of famine. Okay, we don't have access to food, quality water, potable water. That's very unfortunate. Okay, so if we can say that 50% of the entire recorded death is associated with the natural events. Okay, and if we compare these numbers with the kind of syllabus that we have in hand, it kind of fits in. For example, let us say if we go by just absolute number of natural disasters that has occurred in the 20th century, and if you see the first one is the flooding. Okay, and the second one is earthquake, and you can see the kind of impact that has created. Okay, the third one is cyclone and volcanoes, landslides, and so on and so forth. Okay, and and in our syllabus we have all these three to discuss and then see from very closely how these natural disasters occur and impact the Indian subcontinent as such. Okay, so the greatest hazard during the 20th century was flooding, and earthquake and tropical cyclones accounts to other significant natural disaster that has occurred. Okay, increasingly during the first three. Okay, this is another tangent. Okay, where there are certain deaths due to cold waves as well. Okay, why I have put this is there is one group of people who actually counter this so-called climate change. Okay, and one of the arguments that they keep is it is not increasing temperature throughout the world is not a new phenomena for us. Historically, if you see, it has been occurring. Okay, and now giving a lot of focus on that and then emphasizing that we have made too much damage is not correct. Okay, so I thought I'll just highlight you on that as well. Maybe sometime if we have time, we will actually together we'll see one TED talk on the name of the talk is The Inconvenient Truth. Probably some of you must have already seen. If not, sometime we will try to see that. Truth. The Inconvenient Truth. So where there is a discussion on historically how the temperature has changed, okay, and how it is documented, all that. Okay, so just to translate that number into graphical representation, if you locate that to in a spatial context, you can see the Indian subcontinent and the number of events that that we face. Okay, so that's why this subject is very pertinent, and we all should be equipped with some basic understanding on major disaster that impact Indian subcontinent, and we should be helping the concerned authorities in our practice. Okay, and also both, okay, number of event is also high, and the number of people affected by the by this event is also high. Okay, so naturally, okay, we are both China and India is are on the same page. Okay, and just to give some understanding, okay, India is the 7th largest country by area, and the 2nd most populous country in the world. Okay, and we are actually neck to neck with China, and probably in another 5 years or less than 5 years, or maybe by 2030 definitely we will cross that. Okay, and that is one that is also makes India most vulnerable, because more people are exposed to risk. Okay, so and of course we have oceans on both the side, and when we discuss about cyclone, we will see how these water bodies and the oceans make India further vulnerable in terms of cyclone. Okay, due to its physiographic and climatic condition, and India is one of the most prone to natural disasters, and nearly 50-60% of the landmass is prone to earthquake of moderate to high intensity. Okay, at the end of the slide I have some maps that we will see how do we read this map. I'm sure you must have checked it, otherwise also we in this particular subject we are supposed to read all these maps, just to at least understand how do we place ourselves. Okay, I think in your when you are presenting your juries, the juror may the faculty may ask you what is the zone, what is the zone in which this site is located. Okay, in terms of earthquake. So where do we look for, how do we get to know that this site is located in this particular zone, and when we say zone 2, zone 3, what does it mean? Okay, so all that is relevant, and of course we have a separate unit on earthquake that time we will see in detail, but otherwise also I'll just show it in the end of the presentation on how do we read the maps. Okay, and other things, more than 12% of the land is prone to floods, and this is one of the major thing of the nearly 7,500 long coastlines, close to 5,000 odd, close to 6,000 odd kilometers of coastal lines are prone to cyclones and tsunamis. Okay, and also we can see most of our major cities, okay, we have major cities across all this coastal line. Not only here in India, it is across, maybe I don't have the picture, maybe if possible I'll next time, if I remember correctly, I will bring maps which shows the location of cities, okay, how the population is spread across the world. Okay, more than 70% of the population is closer to the coastal lines. Okay, I'll maybe next time I'll definitely try to bring so that we will just to get an idea why these why this is important and why we have to understand that. Okay, and also this we have seen in the beginning also, heightened vulnerability. Okay, what do you mean by heightened vulnerability? The location of the Indian subcontinent, the population, okay, and the Himalayas that we have on the northeast, okay, and the oceans on both the side. Okay, all this actually increases the vulnerability of Indian subcontinent. Okay, we are prone to disasters. Okay, so heightened vulnerabilities to disaster risk can be related to expanding population. In addition to this, okay, population, urbanization, these things we have discussed last time, industrial development within high risk zones, and environmental degradation, and the natural global event of climate change. Beside this what we have discussed, okay, beside the natural factors discussed earlier, various human induced activities, this we have not seen. What are human induced activities? Increasing demographic pressure, okay, deteriorating environmental conditions, deforestation, unscientific development, faulty agricultural practice, grazing, unplanned urbanization, construction of large dams on rivers, channels, etc., are also responsible for accelerating this kind of disaster. Okay, so of this, what is our role here as an architect? Do we have a say on increasing demographic pressure? No, we don't have say on that. Deteriorating environmental conditions, of course, yes, we do have some role to play here, because we create buildings, right? And buildings are going to be part of the existing fabric, okay, and we do have control on, we can control the kind of building that we leave, okay, the footprint that we leave on the earth, okay, that our role can be there. Deforestation, directly we don't have, though we do talk about greening and having open spaces, all that, okay. Indirectly we do talk about unscientific development. Here this is where we can directly contribute, okay. Even in the environmental, reducing this or reducing the impact of this deterioration can also be our direct contribution. Unscientific development means having, so for example, let us say when we put up a building, okay, and we have to look in for various things, okay, various things in terms of whether the building is following all the bylaws, okay. Why do we do that? Because in bylaws we already have certain things in mind, okay. This will help in controlled development, not controlled, regulated development, we can say regulated development, not control. We can have a control on the density, we can have control on the physical infrastructure that is needed, for example in terms of water, wastewater it is being generated, and the solid waste it will create, okay. All that we have a control. Indirectly all these things are fed in the bylaws, okay. And even if we strictly follow the bylaws and respect all the codes that is there, we will be doing a lot of justice to the building that we design, okay. One. Second one is unscientific development. For example, if we have if you are given a chance to design an urban setting or urban interventions, okay, we should be realistic in nature, okay. What should be the population of this, what should be the ideal density with which the development has to be made, okay, so that the infrastructure, the carrying capacity of infrastructure suits the kind of development that we envisage, okay. And if there is a mismatch between the kind of infrastructure that we have and the kind of development that we propose, okay, we are actually being unscientific and also not rational in our approach, Okay, this is one thing that we have to be careful, and we have to be scientific in our approach. Okay, that's one thing. Other thing where we can directly get involved, unplanned urbanization. Okay, so urbanization is bound to happen. Okay, as per 2011 census data. Okay, as per 2011 census data, 31% of the land, not 31%, I think 31% of the entire India is urbanized. Okay, yeah, 31, correct. 31% of the India is urbanized, and we are moving towards 50% urbanization in very quick time. Okay, and we cannot stop. I think you know what is urbanization. Okay, where the rural areas are getting the urban characteristics. Okay, more and more buildings, more and more townships, more and more cities we are trying to build so that we can accommodate the increasing population. Okay, and of course we do not have control on this. We are the country is trying to control on population, all that, but still it will not happen in one day. Okay, in order to stabilize the population, to stabilize, maybe it will take another 20-30 years. Okay, so till such time the trend will continue. Okay, the trend will continue. Okay, so having said that, what we can do at the moment? What we can do at the moment is, when we plan cities, okay, when we plan new layouts, that has to be more scientific and in a planned manner. Okay, not in a haphazard, unplanned manner. Okay, not taking some random decisions that will have serious consequences that will definitely increase the vulnerability of the development. Okay, in the context of human vulnerability to disaster, the economically and socially weaker segments of the population are the ones that are most seriously affected. Okay, this is very, very important that we have to keep in mind. Okay, and also 97%, as per one of the studies conducted, 97% of the works done by architects are not for these sections of people. Okay, hardly less than 3% of the work done is targeted at this particular section. Okay, I think, I don't know whether you follow these kind of talks or not, or if it is boring for you, but there is a talk on this also, why and how architects are not what to say, these kind of these sections of community cannot access architects. Okay, and whom are we designing? Whom are these architects designing for? Who are our actual clients? Okay, and 97% of the time they are not from these sections of the society. Okay, that's the mismatch that we have between what we do and what is expected from our side to do. Okay, and other things, about 10% of the world's tropical cyclone occurs in Indian context, particularly with respect to cyclones, and we have 5 to 6 cyclones every year. Okay, and of which let's say if one cyclone hits from Arabian Sea, we get 4 cyclones from Bay of Bengal. We will see in details about all this little in the coming units. Actually, there is one unit itself. Okay, but broadly we have cyclone as a major issue, and these are in terms of numbers how it affects the Indian subcontinent. Okay, the second one that we will be studying is of course on floods. okay, urban floods specifically, is caused by the combination of meteorological and hydrological and human factors due to land use changes. This is what I said. One of my PhD student is working on this, and flooding in urban areas can happen very rapidly. So this is one component that we will see in greater detail. Earthquake, again 59% of the Indian subcontinent or the terrain is vulnerable to earthquake. That's why all these subjects are being discussed. Landslide also occurs, but 30% of the landslide that occurs is associated with the Himalayan range, but we are in this particular subject that component is not there, so probably will not be discussing that. Yeah, I will not do this, I will just skip this. We have some maps. Okay, where do we look for maps? There's something called Building Material and Technology Promotion Council, okay, BMTPC. You can Google it, and they publish maps on these lines. Okay, and of course the first reference that we should make is NBC. Okay, and of course NBC goes back to this for taking the maps. That is a two-way, but you can directly check this, or you can check NBC as well. Okay, has come out with Vulnerability Atlas of India as a tool for formulating policy, strategies and programs to face the threats caused by natural disasters. Okay, this is kind of a use as a reference image for planning and coming out with strategies and so on and so forth. Okay, one of the maps is, you can see this, I can zoom it further. We have something called India climatic disaster map, where cyclones, okay, cyclone, flood are mapped. Okay, this is all together. This is just an indication of various disasters that hits the Indian subcontinent. We have cyclone being mapped, floods, drought, hot desert climate. Okay, in specific, this is an overview. Okay, this we cannot make out, we can't make much out of this. This is one map which talks about the earthquake hazard map of India. Okay, and we do have something called zones. This is important, and let's see if we can zoom. Okay, this is the maximum I can zoom. I think I have a, okay, let me check, I can do. No, I think I have not kept it. I'll share it in WhatsApp, where high quality image is there. You can just zoom in and check for yourself how it can be. Okay, how do we read this? It is simple. We don't have to. We don't need a lot of scientific analysis and all. Zones. Okay, these are zones, and you can see the color variations. It's not very clear here. Maybe I'll share the better quality images so that you can just look at it and then see we are falling in which zone. Okay, and for each zone, okay, and if we go to NBC, okay, for each zone we have some specific recommendations. What should be done if you are planning in zone 5? What should be done if you are planning in zone 2? Okay, and interestingly, if you see, we have zones starting from zone 2 to zone 5. Okay, zone 5. Where is zone 1? Actually, in the revised NBC, zone 1 was eliminated. Okay, and they said all the Indian subcontinent is subject, can experience earthquake. Okay, that's why we don't have zone 1. Zone 1 was absolutely no earthquake can be felt, or there's no damage will happen, and so on and so forth. Okay, but however, in the recent versions, this has been modified. Okay, and we no longer say that parts of the country will not experience any earthquake. We will definitely encounter earthquakes. Similarly, we do have maps for floods. Okay, so definitely we will go into details of this. How do we read this? What kind of understanding that we should develop from this, and then how do we use that in design when we take up the this also we will definitely go and explore further. How do we read this? What kind of inferences that we should draw from it, and how do we will definitely and go and check NBC as well. What does it say? If we are in zone 2, what should we do? If we are in zone 5, what should we do? We will try to do that. Similarly, for floods also we have maps, and for a cyclone also we have maps. And these are kind of a reference map based on which the policy measures are taken in a broad manner. Okay, so this is about landslides. This is not part of the syllabus, but of course this is also, you can see primarily we have major vulnerable areas in the northwest part of India. Okay, I think that's it. That's all I have for the day, and I'll just stop here.